Hey, high school literacy leaders. This is DLC Foster Yankee, and I would like to welcome you back to Curriculum Chats. In this video, I'll be discussing the second lesson in the first section of the Friday Night Lights unit. Here are the goals, teaks, and ELPs for this lesson, courtesy of our curriculum. The lesson goals are to have students evaluate details read to understand key ideas in the prologue of the text, analyze Bissinger's purpose and message, and evaluate how Bissinger's use of language informs and shapes the perception of readers in this text. Just one text for this lesson, which is H.G. Bissinger's Friday Night Lights. Several tools will be utilized by students in this lesson, including the attending to details, character note-taking tools, vocabulary journal, word map, word sort, either closed or open, two reference guides. One is the academic discussion reference guide, and the other is the literacy toolbox reference guide, which teachers may just want to provide to students once and just have them in their notebook for them to refer back to when needed. And we'll also be using the Friday Night Lights Section 1 question set. All right, so our lesson overview is we will continue reading Friday Night Lights and begin to analyze the city of Odessa and the relationship citizens have with the football team. We will discuss how Bissinger portrays this relationship. So now we'll take a closer look at the 6 activities that make up lesson 2. In Activity 1, students are working with a partner or group to respond to the vocabulary exercises as directed by the teacher. So this activity picks up where the last activity in the previous lesson left off, with students using their vocabulary journals and the vocabulary in context tool to define vocabulary words from the prologue of the novel. The purpose is to provide students with the opportunity to interact meaningfully with new words to cement their understanding. The terms that students define for homework are important to the theme of fandom and can be referenced as students read the novel and additional texts. They are also important to the author's perspective and how he portrays the citizens of Odessa and their relationship with the team. Some suggested supports would be teacher modeling or guided practice if students are using a tool that they are unfamiliar with. Suggested extension would be to combine the new vocabulary words with sentence starters, such as those found in the academic reference guide, to provide opportunities for English learners to practice using academic language in the classroom. For engagement, assuming that all of these tools have already been introduced and students are comfortable using them, the teacher might allow students to choose which activity they would like to complete and which tool they would like to use. They could also have students create visuals that could be added to the class word wall. Okay. For activity 2, students work with a partner. The teacher assigns each pair a question from the Section 1 question set, and they complete a copy of the Attending to Details tool with that question. Once pairs have completed the tool, the class discusses the detail and analysis for each question. Purpose: the prologue is a strong introduction to the book. In it, Bissinger sets the book's tone while also introducing its central characters and themes. Establishing a solid understanding and summarization of the prologue as a class will provide a foundation for comprehension of the entire book. Suggested support: this is the first time that students use the Attending to Details tool in this unit, so the teacher may want to explain its purpose and organization and model how students might use it to move from key details to a text-based observation that expresses their developing understanding of the text. The curriculum also provides some clarification on the specific steps students take in using the tool, which would be a wise addition to an anchor chart. Additionally, the curriculum suggests different strategies based on class size and student need for engaging the class and establishing a summary of the prologue. Suggested extension: teachers might ask questions from the questioning reference guide in addition to the ones on the screen. In Activity 3, students write a short paragraph response in their learning logs to the question on the screen, which is, what does the concept of fandom mean to you, both inside and outside your school? which is a pretty cool question to be answering right after homecoming. Once students have had time to draft their thoughts in their learning logs, the teacher facilitates a discussion in which students share and respond to each other's perspectives on fandom. The purpose is fandom is a central theme of Friday Night Lights and will be one focus of student analysis in this unit. Students will be analyzing how Bissinger portrays the relationships between the fans and the players and their importance in Odessa. They will also consider what Bissinger might be saying about American society in general and how that relates to students' perspective on high school athletic culture. Students can eventually choose to address fandom in their culminating task. Developing a detailed analysis of Bissinger's portrayal of the various aspects of high school athletic culture and building confidence in their own perspective will be important for student success. Suggestions for supports or engagement. The teacher might choose to highlight some of the norms from the academic discussion reference guide to support the discussion. An extension might be to have students refer to the Assessing Sources reference guide for a process to assess sources for bias, credibility, and accuracy, and or the Tone reference guide for information on understanding and identifying tone in a text. Students will benefit from using those throughout the unit. For activity 4, students read and annotate the beginning of chapter 1 to the break in the text on page 29, then answer and discuss the first two questions up here on the screen from section 1 question set, focusing on how the author portrays the history of the town. The purpose of this activity is that chapter 1 of the text provides students with a detailed background of Odessa, Texas. The author uses this historical setting as a basis for many of the themes throughout the text. The history of race, culture, and socioeconomics play an important part in his perspective and arguments. Students should understand the importance of the history and the culture of Odessa because it is such a central part of the text. Suggested supports or extensions. There is a list of vocabulary words in the teacher's notes that might require pre teaching. The list is not exhaustive. Teachers know their students, so they should know which words they do or do not need to pre teach. If the teacher feels their students might benefit from additional reading comprehension support, they might read the text aloud as students follow along. Use the sample annotation key in the annotating and note taking reference guide to model how to annotate the text. Teachers should also make sure the annotations students are asked to write connect to the goals and lessons for the unit. They might also encourage English learners to annotate the text in their home language. If time is an issue, the teacher might have students read all of chapter 1 for homework. If they do that, they want to be sure students understand how to use the character note taking tool mentioned in the following activity before releasing them to read independently. As mentioned earlier, if the teacher opts to go this route, students would really benefit from the modeling of how to annotate. Okay. I think we also talked in the previous lesson about having a map of this area of Odessa, Texas in the classroom so that students get a visual of where this setting is. Hey, activity 5. In this optional activity, students select one of the characters Bissinger introduces in the prologue and uses the questions on screen to come up. I lost my place, which come from the section 1 question set to begin taking notes on the character note taking tool. The purpose of this activity is identifying and tracking the development of a key figure in the book throughout the unit. Students are introduced to each player in the prologue. Suggested supports and extensions would be teacher modeling of how to use the character note taking tool before releasing students to work with it on their own. Teachers might also collect the completed tool for a formative assessment as needed. So not every time students complete it, but just when they want to get a better feel of how students are doing with using the tool. For engagement, student choice, allowing students to choose which character to follow. If the teacher opts to go that route, they might group students who chose the same character together to compare their notes and collaborate on an anchor chart for that character, which again would be a great addition to the classroom environment. The final activity of this lesson is listed as a homework activity. Students finish reading and annotating chapter 1 using the guiding question on the screen, which is here on the last page of chapter 1. Bissinger says, in just about a week, the team would be officially unveiled to the public, and from that moment on, it would become the property of those so desperately devoted to it. How does this quote support the perspective Bissinger develops in chapter 1? So after they finish reading and annotating chapter 1 using that question, they write down any ideas or evidence from the text that help them answer the question in their learning log. They also write new or interesting words they encounter in their vocabulary journal. Purpose: this guided question helps students focus their reading and connect both the theme, the author's perspective, and the language the author uses to develop their perspective. The complexity of the question helps students connect what they discussed in class with the reading completed for homework. Right, so that concludes the lesson itself. So here we have the cub. Students will know the relationship between the citizens of Odessa and the football team. Students will understand how Bissinger portrays the relationship between the citizens of Odessa and the football team. And students will be able to evaluate how Bissinger's use of language informs and shapes the reader's perception of the relationship between the citizens of Odessa and the football team by discussing the question. On the last page of chapter 1, Bissinger says, in just about a week, the team would be officially unveiled to the public. And from that moment on, it would become the property of those so desperately devoted to it. How does this quote support the perspective Bissinger develops in chapter 1? Okay, so that be able to only works if students complete activity 6 in class. Right, that's a wrap for this video. I welcome your feedback and look forward to hearing from you either on Twitter, via email, or in the comments. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe so you never have to worry about missing a video. Thanks for watching.